Last interview, take one.
Hey everyone, today I'm here with my friend Jonas Esser, who just released his debut album entitled Last Album, which I hope it's not your last album, on Bandcamp and all streaming services. Jonas is a very in-demand drummer on the New York jazz scene, but this record goes way beyond your typical combo album. We're going to dive into this record, including a behind-the-scenes look at the production of 2 tracks. About how many of the tracks would you say use like written tunes in a traditional way?
Maybe almost all of them.
Almost all of them. Okay,
yeah,
so they all involve some compositional elements.
Right. Like the basic concept, like my basic approach to almost all of the tracks is just I put in my compositions in Logic as MIDI. I use melody, chords, and bass, and then from there I go on and replace all of that with live instruments slowly and add some more production. But I'll walk you through some of the stuff later.
Cool, yeah. And
then like two songs I think are more on the production side, and there's no charts, and I was just messing around.
Nice. Yeah. And so yeah, you've got like what you could call jazz as well as rap, spoken word. So yeah, who are your biggest influences in that type of like fusion of production and composition?
Yeah, I play a lot of acoustic jazz in New York, and also these songs I've played leading a band on some gigs, and I just started noticing I stopped listening to so much jazz actually in my free time, and I got a lot into Arca. I don't know if you know Arca. It's like like a synth artist.
Nice.
And Flanify and Salami, Rose.
I don't know those. I'll have to check those out.
It's like I just got it in Thundercat and Flying Lotus.
I heard those 2 influences on here for sure. Those are 2 of my favorites in that sort of, a lot of people I think who produce electronic stuff don't necessarily have that musical background, and the people like Square Pusher,
right,
and people who play an instrument really well and get into production, it's always such cool results.
Right, and on the other side, I don't have that much background in production. I'm basically learned all my skills in the process of making that album.
Cool.
I wasn't even planning to make an album really. So I just started putting my jazz songs into MIDI because I thought you could make them sound more contemporary, because people just, I don't know, in jazz there's so much amazing harmony and rhythm and so many beautiful elements that I love and that got me interested in that music, but it's missing a lot of that contemporary sound that you hear in pop and hip hop and R&B music. And I've been listening, as I said, more and more to these kind of genres, so that's why I thought, why don't I put that into Logic and see what happens? And it was all kind of an experiment. After transferring all these compositions into MIDI, from there the creative process. It's like when you write an essay. For me, the hardest part in school writing an essay was to start. Like how do you start?
Absolutely.
And once you have the MIDI and you have the song structure, you can it gives you so much inspiration to do whatever you want. And slowly, just watching YouTube tutorials, some basic mixing, some basic effects.
And so how far, I know that you had it mixed and mastered by other people, right?
Yeah, mixed by Tiger Deep and mastered by Nate Wood.
That's an important shout out.
Huge shout out.
And so how close to the finished product would you say it was, in terms of the mix? Did you sort of do a rough mix yourself?
So yeah, that's the thing when you're producing. I feel like you want at least the drums to be a little punchy, and you want the bass to cut through the mix a little bit. Like you want to, because if that's not happening, how are you gonna keep composing, keep producing if you can't even hear how it sounds? So I did, I can show you later. I did some basic stuff, and some of the songs were pretty pretty finished, and then the mixing and mastering did just a tiny tweak.
Yeah.
But some of that was really rough. Like all this shit was clipping, and I don't really know a lot about this stuff. And the mixer, Tiger, really helped me out a lot, and he spent a lot of time cleaning everything up, giving me tips and advice, and yeah. So that was some songs were really a lot of work mixing.
Yeah, because if you don't have it sounding at least decent, then you won't want to keep working on it, and you want to send it to people to put new layers on.
Right, that's the other thing. You
got to get it to be like at least halfway there.
Yeah.
Let's listen to the first track. Tell us the name of the track.
It's called OK. So this song was pretty much finished before I even put it into Logic. This is the chart.
Yeah.
And then what I did is just put the melody on Logic, choose some basic sound. I use Serum mostly and Alchemy. This is how it sounds with, so I do synth, melody, chords, and bass.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I deleted the bass because I had a real bass player play over it, and I didn't know we were doing this interview.
That's okay.
But this is how it sounds. Just melody and chords. Yeah.
And had you ever played this with a traditional like acoustic trio?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, or like a quintet, I think. Yeah, that's how it sounds. Nice. And then the next step is usually, and also the sounds don't really matter because in the end, I don't really use much of it anyways. Mm-hmm. In this case, I did actually, just as a layer, I had a saxophone and guitar play the melody, but I kept the synth to just give it a different texture for the melody. And the chords I usually keep. The bass I usually don't keep because bass players play so much.
Right.
It just makes the music flow if bass players actually embellish everything. I just usually just put bass root notes and just on every note, just so I have it, you know.
Nice.
And so the next step is usually drums, which I can solo to.
Can I hear just the drums a little bit? And so how did you record this? Drums.
Just everything at home. You can see 2 overheads, snare, kick, and 1 tom mic.
Amazing.
And I did some basic mixing. Actually, with this one, a friend helped me with mixing, but like, you know, I do some frequency sweeping, like get rid of the annoying frequencies, do some low cuts on most of it except for bass and kick, and some compression. I have some bass boost here for some stuff, and I do a side chain. I sent the kick to a bus and sidechain compress the overheads, and that's it. I'm not going to spend too much time because the mixer knows how to do that way better, but I want it to sound decent so I can go from there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how it sounds. And then the next step was bass. So I had my friend Warren Louie come over and just play the whole thing on the bass. Let me show you melody, chords, or bass and drums together.
And you said this is one of the least busy sessions?
Yeah.
Because still a fair number of tracks compared to jazz.
That's
like
true,
a traditional jazz record, you know?
Yeah, I'll get to the overdubs later, but some of them the MIDI stuff was just like the beginning, and that led me to so many different creative things and on the production side. So yeah, and this is basically, this could be a track, I guess. Like, yeah.
Yeah, but then you got like one of the best tenor players, one of the best guitar players. Around to play the melody.
Let me get to that. Then I added some drum overdubs for different parts. What did I do here? Let's see. Oh yeah, this basically is just like some cymbal stuff. For that part, I needed some high end and some elevation because the energy I wanted the energy to be higher in this part than in the part before. So I just added some 16th notes on the cymbal to the whole mix. Yeah. I also added some vocals to the melody here. I was thinking of like the Pat Metheny stuff where there's vocals.
I love the vocals
melody
on this record. Was that you?
That was me, and I'm not a good singer. But what I did is just, what did I do here? Yeah, on the main vocals, I added some pitch correction because I'm not a good singer, and then I have left and right, which is quieter, which makes it sound more like a chorus. And these I actually didn't pitch correct because it doesn't matter. I think actually some inaccuracies in pitch makes it sound
For sure.
more like a chorus.
And you never hear that. It's so in the background. It sits mixed really well.
Right.
And it sits behind the melody in a way that it just adds a fullness.
Right. I can solo it. It's basically also just
the vocals.
Yeah. It's also, and then I added compression and reverb, and that's it. Yeah, it doesn't sound great, but then with everything,
it sounds great with everything. Yeah. And what did you record that with at home?
With what microphone?
Yeah.
AKG 214.
Okay.
C214.
Yeah, great mic.
Yeah, I used them as overheads too.
Nice.
And then the other, I have some claps here.
Is that multiple layers of claps?
Oh yeah, I have like.
Oh, so many claps.
It's
Okay,
like
wonderful.
7 claps or something.
Well, I'm a huge fan of like those the later Pat Metheny group records, like Kin, where there's a lot of textures like that.
And
I
also
love that album. And this
I guess I have
me
a lot of Pat
that.
Metheny in there. Right. So okay, that's basically it. And then the only thing that's missing now is saxophone and guitar. So there's a part for a guitar solo, there's a part for a saxophone solo, and I had them play the melody. And that's one thing you have to be aware of. When do you invite people to play over it? Like, do you invite them pretty early on in the process and then you chop everything up?
Yeah.
Or do you have the whole arrangement ready and then you can do both. Both works. And in the song I'm going to show you later, I had the saxophone player come in pretty early in the process, and I just used some bits of what he was playing to add some textures. But here I had what I showed you just now, everything ready, and I had the saxophone play over it. I just had him play the melody. It's Ben Solomon, really, really amazing tenor player, and I'm very grateful he agreed to play on this. And yeah, he played the melody and he played a solo.
Yeah, check out Ben's Etude books. I got a lot of saxophone players on my channel, so.
Did you?
I have one of them. They're really hard and really good for you.
Do I show you this? I guess I can show you the whole. This is how it sounds with guitar and sax and everything.
It sounds fantastic. Is anything quantized? Like, are some of the drums that are kicks? Did you play those on a pad?
What I did is just if I hear inaccuracies in my playing, I fix something. But I don't like go ahead and quantize everything.
But no MIDI. It's just like samples of those kicks that you move.
Actually, there is one MIDI drums which is here. I needed some more grid, some more ADD flow, and it sounds like this. It's a hi-hat, and with everything it sounds.
Oh yeah, I hadn't even noticed that sound in the track.
You don't notice it. I just wanted it to flow more and have this like forward direction, and I was too lazy to record. I think I didn't have my microphones at that day, so I just did like this MIDI thing, and yeah, it sounds like a Mario Kart sound.
It does remind me of a Super Nintendo sound, but I like that.
Yeah, too.
That sounds great. And for arranging these things, they're not like head solo head. Like you did some interesting things with the form on this as well.
That's the beautiful thing about production. That's something you can't do live. For example, let's check out the transition from the interlude to the next section, which I can show you here. We're here. Da, da. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And you see, this is where it usually would continue.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
But I had I thought, why don't I, like live, I just usually just continue, but why don't I break it down? And what I did is just I added an arpeggiator. And in the beginning I had like a whole track, just chords. and then I just used the chords and put it into an arpeggiator and messed around with the different settings until I found something that I liked, and then I put a filter on the arpeggiator, and I also put a filter on the drums, and that sounds like so. Wait, where is it? Oh yeah, here. And now you can, and then it opens up and goes to the next part. And so that filter is just like a high cut with some resonance, so you can like hear the sweep.
Yeah.
I don't know if, yeah, some people might not be familiar with these terms, but so yeah, everything sounds.
Is that on a plugin that's in here? Can we see the automation at all?
We can. So the arpeggiator, I just used Fat FX.
Love it. Love that plugin.
Yeah, so we can see it.
Logic gives us so much stock. Like you can make so much with stock plugins.
Let's see. I think you should see this cutoff going down. Oh, and the resonance is on. Yeah, see? And now?
Awesome.
And here, that's where I needed the overdubs, the cymbal stuff, because it's like a next step, so it needs to be a higher energy.
When you do automation, do you typically draw in automation, or are you recording yourself like the
I usually record and then I adjust drawing. I hate automation though, because I usually do it before I have the arrangement completely fixed and then like completely set. And then if you want to change something and copy paste, it's really annoying. I usually, like later on in the process of making the songs, I try to use as less automation as possible, because you can do it differently. You can just bounce it into an audio track and then use that, and then you can delete the automation. And with the drums, I didn't do it with Fat FX. I just think I just used like the Logic EQ and
super easy. Yeah, love it. Now I think there's also a part after the saxophone solo where you do like a pitch, like a tape stopping effect on the saxophone solo, and then it comes back at a different tempo. That's basically just you know, when you do fades in Logic. Yeah. Like you. Let's go to like an audio track. Okay, and then you just do like a fade like this, and then you can right click and select slow down instead of fade. Wow! And what it does, it just that's it. I love that.
I think real producers would use like tape machines and everything, but I don't know.
There's no more real producers. Some of the Grammys are winning on cracked Fruity Loops, studio now.
Yeah, FL Studio.
FL Studio. So I mean, everything is valid.
Where is it? It's here. No, it should be.
Wait, I wanted to ask formally, like you have everything come back in it's faster, right?
Right. That's just a faster tempo.
Was that just? Do you do that when you play this live?
Yeah. That's also like
there's like a break and it comes back faster.
Yeah,
I love that, because I feel like tempo is actually something that I miss in jazz that people don't play with.
Yeah.
Do you know the recording of Brilliant Corners, the Monk tune, where they play the whole thing like half time and double time?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else ever tried that again. Like I hear so little of tempo being used as like part of a formal expression.
Right. Or like blue and green.
Yeah. So I think it's nice to hear that. And also, like, in my own writing, trying to break out of the head solo head thing. Like, how do you do that but still stay, like, true to the tradition in some way? And I think this actually is a great example of how you can... This is the closest one on the record, maybe, to, like, a traditional jazz combo recording.
Yeah.
But, yeah, super great.
Yeah, I mean, thanks.
And...
let me just add one last thing about the chords, because you can see I have like 4 different instruments for the chords.
Yeah.
And originally they were all in one instrument, but then later in the arrangement I want different chord sounds for different parts, right? Like in the beginning it's supposed to be chill, so I have like a pretty muffled high cut.
Is that Alchemy?
That's Serum.
That sounds great.
And actually, I automated this, if you can see. Yeah, here I still used a lot of automation. I'm not very proud of it. But so you can see the cutoff, because during that part, I wanted the synth to open up a little bit. and like I'm not gonna play the whole thing, but from here, muffled, and then here, brighter, and just to make because the production stuff can sound very stiff, and because you don't play together. Like it can lack it can lack life, if that's something you can say.
Yeah, well,
that's why I'm trying to like automate and like change slight things, make it human.
I wanted to ask in this process, like, do you ever have something come back from like someone lays down a solo and then you go in and change any of the accompaniment stuff to make it sound more like a live interaction?
Yeah, I sometimes track drums just very. Like I sometimes track drums and then have an instrumentalist play solo over it, and then re-record drums so I can interact with, like, pretend I'm interacting with the soloist. Yeah. And that's something I do. Let me just go finish the chord stuff, and then for the interlude, for example, I have a completely different chord sounds. It sounds like this. More like a churchy kind of sound, like an organ. And then when there's more energy in the next part, I have this. It's basically the same chord sound as before, but I added some LFO on the cutoff and makes it more live. I don't know, like. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add that. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, you talk like you're pretty new to the thinking of it as a producer rather than as a composer and player, but I mean everything feels super balanced, and it's was this one of the first tracks that you did on the record or later?
I kind of did everything within 3 months and everything at the same time.
Wow.
I'm like, if you want to see my desktop, like I'm really disorganized.
If you want to share it with us.
It's just this is how my desktop looks. And like that's how I produce. It's like all like super messy, and
it's like a real desktop. Like, oh, what was I working on? Yeah, I do kind of do the same thing.
It was super messy, and I did everything at the same time, and then I added something here and there. But I had a lot of passion. Like I was really passionate, so that's why it worked.
Yeah,
you can either be really disciplined and organized and clean, but lack passion, I guess, or you have a lot of passion, then anything works. I don't know.
Yeah, some people maybe have both, but I feel like most people have one or the other. And so you've got the head with us, so it's just track 3, right?
That's track 3, yeah.
Track 3 is the head. What's the story behind the head?
I don't know. I just picked it up at like a dollar store, and
sort of became a muse for you.
I kept bringing it around because I'm not very good at small talk, so this is a good icebreaker.
It's a very serious conversation starter.
Yeah.
That's great. And just as a quick deviation before we get into the other track, I wanted to talk about the album cover. Maybe you have a JPEG of it just so we can glance at it while we
somewhere
talk.
In my files. Let's see.
There we go. Okay, yeah.
This is an old version of the cover. Actually, CD Baby didn't let me upload this because I didn't add all the artist info, like all this text here.
You have to.
These are the artists that played on the album, but
they required that.
The information of the songs have to match the information on the cover. So if I have this, I need to add all the information. But you
had different people on every song.
Yeah, and I have like some people just did like 1 bar of guitar licks, so I don't want to put them as a featured artist so that's why I just deleted that. But that's
the only change. Okay, yeah. So this is an awesome album cover. I have like a coffee table book of Blue Note album covers. I love album covers. So I wanted to ask, like, was this your process, or did you have some other artists involved?
Almost nothing came from my imagination, to be honest. So my girlfriend's roommate had this plastic person, like this plastic wrap.
Inflatable human?
Exactly. Yeah, it's not inflatable, actually. It's just she taped herself, I think, or someone else.
Oh, it's stiff. It's like
stiff. Yeah,
wow.
And then she crawled out of the thing, and it's like a plastic sculpture with a TV inside. That was like in the apartment.
Was already inside.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this looks really cool. This would be a cool. And that was like when I kind of finished up my album slowly, and I thought this would be a cool cover, like my face on this TV in this plastic person in a completely white room. the white room turned out to be a little difficult because it's plastic, and it's see-through, so you can't really see the plastic thing. So I used this. I went to my friend and someone I play with a lot, Richie Nuz, who also has a photo studio, and he has this cool couch. I had it on the couch to make the contrast better, and actually putting my face on this TV was pretty difficult. You need like adapters.
Oh, it's really there. It's not added in Photoshop.
No, it's like on there.
You can tell it looks real. I wanted to ask about that as well.
Right, and then you need the right shutter speed because like you know how these TVs
lines,
works. Yeah.
So and then the other graphic design like this.
This is Tim Watson.
The tape, the dotted line, all of that looks great. That's by Tim Watson.
That's Tim Watson. Great.
He's a graphic designer.
Super great guitar player and graphic designer and friend.
It looks awesome. I mean, I think that it's kind of a dying art in my opinion, though, like album covers, because people put something up on streaming and people do like the singles releases and it'll just be like they opened Canva and typed the song name and boom.
Yeah.
Or AI. Screw all that.
Yeah.
So just wanted to say that's a great album cover. And also, like, having one idea and then saying, like, that didn't work, let's try the couch instead of the white room. That's kind of like how producing music in this way works.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, like versus where, the chart, play the chart, guys. Like, your solos are your solos, but this is the chart. Like, this is the creative process that we use.
Also, taking ideas by other people. Like Miles was such a great band leader because he had amazing music. He just chose the right musicians and he made the right choices, but he didn't actually compose a lot of songs. And it's easy for me to be proud of this because nothing actually came from none of that was my idea. But I just kind of like brought everything. Oh, sorry. I kind of brought everything together, and it's a really cool product. But I didn't really come up with all this.
That looks great.
Yeah.
This is a complete digression, but there's a experimental film called Spark of Being that Dave Douglas did the soundtrack to. Mm-hmm. And the film is entirely found footage, and they were sending back like bits of music, bits of like footage that he had put together to tell the story of Frankenstein. So it was like an allegory for the story of being a monster. Oh. And that creative process, when I was listening to this, it made me think of that record of Dave's, because he would. It's sort of a soundtrack and sort of a record, but definitely Spark of Being is a very cool film if you get a chance to check it out.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, this whole thing is, the genre of the album is kind of all over the place, which made it hard for me also to pitch it to playlists because I couldn't really categorize it. And part of that is just because I didn't really plan to make an album. I just put everything together and had so many different influences, and I just basically messed around and I was just playing around, and that's what I came up with in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's talk about
the other.
I pitched the idea to Jonas to talk about the most complex and most simple tracks in terms of production. This is the simplest one, which is not simple coming from the jazz side of things, but it is. I guess how many tracks is that? About a dozen tracks, which is not a lot for an electronic producer typically, which can go anywhere from 10 to hundreds and hundreds of tracks where every percussion sound is on its own track. And so this looks huge. Can we zoom out and see the whole project? So
this is like these are all the tracks, and some of them are in folders even, like there's more. And it keeps going. How many is it? Yeah, it's about 103. 103.
And that's not including folders?
Or I don't know. Wow. No, it is included. Like, this is 103.
103 tracks. Yeah. And then, is that the whole timeline? Are we seeing the whole thing?
Yes, we do. Oh,
yeah. I wanted to see how much we could fit on the screen. Wow, yeah, huge project. So, this one is Fume. Maybe let's just listen to a little bit from the beginning.
Yeah. Fume. Yeah. So, I mean, I started the same way, though. I had a jazz composition called I had a jazz composition called Does Vitamin D Actually Even Work? And it's in 3, and I put in melody and chords in MIDI. This is going to be a little difficult. Let me add the bass now because
we need that.
Yeah. This is basically my composition.
And we were talking about video game sounds earlier. That chime kind of reminds me of like the ice levels on Super Mario 64, which I love.
I mean, it's really bad sound design. It's just really basic.
No, it's great sound.
And I also don't like the sound, the song, the composition, to be honest. But I came up with this drum groove. I didn't come up with this drum groove. I stole this drum groove, or I got inspired. This is an
You're
album.
Inspired. We do a lot of stealing in the arts.
Yes.
It's allowed.
Yeah, this is an album I listen to a lot, and this is I actually called the track Fume Fume because it's basically, this is the track, and this is just my version of it. And this is, so you can hear, there's a few different drum voices, the high drum, and the low one,
Yeah, there's a melody in there.
Yeah. And then there's some bell stuff, and what I did, I recorded that with. That's why it's so many different voices, because this is a drum.
High drum, low drum.
Yeah, this is a drum ensemble, so I needed to sound like an ensemble is playing all this stuff.
So you multi-track like a dozen.
So
of
like
drum.
the low drum is just. Let's start with the high drum, actually. So this is, and then this is just a snare, I guess.
And some of these are multiple mics on the same part.
Yeah. And then, so I just made sure I have different textures. So I use different sticks or even brushes, or put some nuts or bells on the head, tune it differently, just so I get like the feeling of an ensemble. And then I added the low tom.
And were you doing this with a click, or were you doing this just with like the first version you recorded?
I did this with, this is also a loop. I did like a few bars of this, and then I just looped it, and it's, I think I just did it to the melody.
Oh, nice.
This is the low tom. I used a bass drum, a low tom with nuts on it, a low tom tuned a little differently, a high tom actually, just to give it some more high end. I played it with brushes. Just a bunch of, this is how it sounds together. You can hear the nuts on the one, like this, the rattling. Then I added like a surdo kind of thing that's not in the original track, but you can hear this in 3 or 4, or this is a 3, or I can.
Oh wow.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In triplets, like in 4. I added the surdo to like 2 bars it's in 3, and the other 2 bars it's in 4. And then I added some bells and some rims. And here the same thing. I used a cowbell. I used like a little bell of the cymbal and played with different sticks. And then I added some more switch. I call them switches. Like I added like a 3/4 switch. Like you hear it's like a hi-hat in 3, and then I added a hi-hat and a cymbal in 4, and sometimes they play at the same time, sometimes it's more of the 3/4, sometimes more of the 4/4. So I have the control. I just wanted to have the control when the listeners hear more of the 3/4 and when they hear more of the 4/4. This is the 4/4. And then you can hear here, there's a drum soloing over this whole thing. You hear this, like, it sounds like a solo. It's not actually a solo, it's very strictly, it's like a choreography with the dancers, and the master drummer reacts to the dancer, and there's like really certain fixed patterns. But I didn't want to, I'm a jazz drummer, so I just improvised on the drums over it, because that's what I know how to do. I'm not trying to.
The true definition of fusion.
Yeah. So this is how it sounds, me improvising. over this whole drums, over the whole drum groove. These are the tracks. And then I can do like funny little things, like when I play a tom groove, I'm cutting off the other stuff, and then it comes back. And I basically improvised over this like whole thing, and then I just use what I wanted and cut off the rest.
Nice.
That there's more. Yeah, I mean.
Before we dive into all the tracks,
Yeah.
give me the linear breakdown. What happens in terms of if this has
Right.
like an avant-garde, like almost a free intro, right, with the trumpet?
Yeah.
Yeah. What happens after that?
So originally I had this is the track this is my jazz composition. Melody, chords, everything, and with the groove behind it. But I didn't, as I said, I didn't like the composition so much. So I just used that groove, and I thought, why don't I, and the whole album has a lot of moving harmonies, so I thought, why don't I just have that groove and someone soloing over it like modally,
Yeah.
and I add some effects and different textures, and then I just got creative and tried different things, and a lot of things I deleted again. Like, for example, I had this drone. Oh, sorry. I had this drone. Or this thing. What do I have here? It's like a lot of different things that I didn't even end up using in the end. But some of them I did end up using. For example, this... I took the chord. Do you know Morton Feldman, Rothko Chapel? Morton Feldman is like a new music composer from New York, and he wrote a piece called Rothko Chapel, and I believe it was recorded.
Might have been
there.
recorded there, yeah.
And I took 5 chords that I really liked, and let me find it. Oh yeah, here. I took 5 chords and put it into MIDI with like a synth sound I found. It's actually the exact same chords.
The same exact chords. Okay.
Like,
but you didn't sample it. No laws were broken.
Right. I didn't sample it. I just took the chords. And you can take chords.
Oh,
it's allowed to take chords.
Yeah. But not the
melodies.
A bit of the recording.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I thought maybe this sounds cool on that groove, and even better if a real vocalist would sing these chords. So I had a vocalist sing these chords, and it sounds like this.
Is that the step effects?
The little glitches is just. I just
manually chopped. Wow, that's.
There's probably a smarter way to do it.
The old school way.
Yeah, but this is how it sounds. And then the whole thing starts.
How big a gap would you say there is between like when you think like, oh, this might sound good if a vocalist did it instead of the synth, and then actually like, texting your vocalist friend and getting them over? That I think that's the hardest part for a lot of people with taking that step of actually doing the whim.
Because also I'm a musician, so if I record something for someone, I want to get paid, and if I have people recording for my stuff, I'm going to pay them, and I did. But then you have to be pretty sure about that you actually want that, and that's what I was talking about earlier. When do you start asking people, like at what point of your composition, of your process? And so just different textures, these chords, sound effects, the drumming, and to glue everything to get, and then bass. I had someone improvising on bass. Ollie Bowman, they did such an amazing job. Yeah, let's hear it with the other stuff. This doesn't make sense.
It's so cool.
And here, I just saw a little trick I did here. Like the toms, I matched the vocals to the toms. The vocals and toms.
Well, and see, that's the kind
Like
of thing
these
that
kind
makes
of little
up
things.
for that interaction, the listening that we have in a
Yeah.
live jazz. That's, I think, for some people missing with electronic music. But when you find ways
Yeah.
as a producer to do what you would want the ensemble to do and listen the way that you're having your parts interact with each other.
Right.
We get that in the final product.
Yeah.
How about the transitions from this more kind of, I would say, avant-garde, free section with the trumpet? And we didn't add the trumpet yet, I think.
Right, the trumpet is kind of what glues everything together because the trumpet just solos over the whole thing, except for that one part where the trumpet plays the melody. But because there are different, which is
Is this where the tune comes in?
this is where the tune
And
comes
this
in.
is more the
yeah,
free section.
exactly.
with
But
the
and
chords.
the trumpet kind of glues everything together because even in the free section there's different parts, and if you have a lot of different parts, you need one thing that's like a binding element, either someone soloing over it or, I mean, the drum groove also stays the same, but there's one part that goes like this, which is completely different. It's also something I just came up with, like playing with like some preset synthesizer sounds and my MIDI controller, and then I had to find ways to combine this with the other part. And this is actually in 4, but the drums are in 3, but it doesn't matter. And then the bass doubled it.
And did you record all of the instruments at home, like when you had the trumpet and guitar and bass
Yeah,
and saxophone?
everything at home, yeah.
Everything's at home.
And this is also not very well mixed. I did like low cuts and everything, but actually I see there's all these effects are not on. Oh, because I sent these tracks to the mixer like dry. I didn't want any of my stuff because
Right.
I'm not good at that, so that's why they're not on.
So you sent him like 100 wave files with no effects?
Raw,
Wow.
yes. Sometimes if I have like a filter or a certain reverb that I really liked, I kept it.
Yeah, the stuff that's part of the instrument
For example-
rather than like the production.
Exactly. For example, the saxophone basically just plays effects. Like, so I had my friend Julius Skavlik, really awesome tenor player, just record over this whole like drum ADD stuff, and because there was so much going on, he just decided to make sounds. And let me show you the dry signal. This is the dry stuff. And so I added a shimmer. There's no stock shimmer reverb on Logic, but you can kind of fake it, and you just and a flanger. You send your sax signal to a buzz, and then you put a reverb on it, and then after the reverb you chain a pitch shift an octave up and another reverb, and then you send that buzz to another buzz and do the same thing, and then it kind of sounds like this. Yeah.
Nice.
And that, for example, I sent to the mixer.
There's a few tracks that have spoken word and rap on them.
Oh, yeah.
With that stuff, did you give the writers like total freedom? Did they come in with their lyrics,
Yeah.
or did you give them a thematic, or did you give them lyrics? Or what was the
It was actually
process?
all like freestyle, improvised
all
rap.
freestyle?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And so I had this one track. I mean, the hook. So this one, I wrote this song. It was originally a jazz ballad, but then I wrote this. I put this drum loop in 4 over it, and but the song is actually in 3, and it's a ballad, and I just put this drum loop in 4, and it kind of sounded cool, and then I made a bass line. Like that's what I'm saying. It's like you have like you have the start, and then it just takes you wherever, and it kind of it sounded like I want to rap over it.
Theme that reminds you to blow on your food first and watch how you want people and crowns seem absurd and the fur probably get freaking it with the birds. You should.
Yeah, and there was no really I didn't give them any
Nice.
prompts.
Just came from the beat.
Yeah,
Nice.
it was all improvised. And then since he was there recording, Schoolie, the rapper, amazing rapper, he just rapped over some some other stuff. Actually, he rapped over the saxophone section of OK, but without the saxophone, and then I just used that and made a separate track out of it, which is called Last One.
And that's not the last track on the album.
It's not the last.
Just
track
like this is hopefully not your last album.
It's my last album.
I'm looking forward to first album then.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jonas. This was great to talk about this. You know, when I hear this kind of music, I always want a little bit of a peek inside, and it was so cool to get that and give that to some of my viewers, who I hope find it really interesting. If you want to see more conversations like this, make sure you leave a comment. Let me know that this is something you'd like to see more of. Hit that bell, subscribe, and all that. And thanks for watching.